What do you think about the conviction of Donald Trump?
It's either political theater to keep the people engaged, and I say that because Donald Trump is the most entertaining president in American history. He's the only president in American history that people would rather watch than watch sports or watch their favorite show on television. He is that entertaining because he has no filter, because he's not a politician, he's a business.
Or as Barack Obama said he was a carnival barker.
Well, Barack Obama was very cowardly in his behavior. You know, he wanted to say things that never ruffled anybody's feathers. He always wanted to go along with what the dominant society felt. Barack Obama was very measured in his public statements, very measured. And I think that's why Donald Trump ended up becoming president, because people wanted somebody who would speak truthfully from their heart and not script everything they had to say. Barack Obama was so scripted, you could tell he was fake. But to my point, I believe that Donald Trump is good theater. So this is definitely a way to keep the American people energized about the upcoming presidential election. So that's one thought. It's nothing but smoke and mirrors. The other thought is that they are intentionally trying to foment a civil war. Because if they do anything to keep Donald Trump from running or winning or taking office, I believe these radical white boys are going to rebel up against the government. And that January the 6th will be a picnic compared to what will happen if poor white America perceives that Donald Trump is being denied his constitutional right to, quote unquote, lead this country. And I say quote unquote because we know presidents do not lead anything. They take orders.
That's true.
So it's either going to be a civil war or it's just political theater. And, you know, constitutionally, he can still run as a convicted felon. A convicted felon is not denied a right to be president. To be president of the United States, you know, you had to be a citizen, I think, for 14 years, at least 35 years of age, and something else. But being a convicted felon does not ban you. Now, if he's serving time, can he be a sitting president while serving time in jail? That's the question I'm not sure the answer of. But I don't think this stops anything. And all they're doing is they're turning him into a political martyr, which is only going to guarantee more votes for him on Election Day.
Wow. I mean, but you say that he has a lot of believers and followers, but I'm not sure if they understand what an authoritarian leadership would look like, or living under a dictatorship. You've been to a lot of countries around the world. Have you ever had to visit a dictatorship or authoritarian? And if so, what would be the difference as we practice here and what they do in authoritarian countries?
Now, remember now, all traditionally ruled societies are, quote unquote, authoritarian. If you go to Africa, you know, our traditional rulers, you know, are authoritarian. Now, there are checks and balances. You have the Queen Mother, you have the Council of Elders. There are, you know, there are checks and balances. There is no absolute, you know, dictatorship, if you would, but all traditional rulers are authoritarian. I think the problem is that people have seen democracy, and democracy has not improved their lives. So I think a lot of people, not just speaking for America, but speaking for people around the world of any color, but especially we're discussing us, African people, we've been under democracy, and we have seen democracy has been nothing but a falsocracy and a hypocrisy. And I think people are willing to try something new. And I think if you talk to most of the world's poor, if you talk to most of America's poor, if you talk to most of the world's African poor, a lot of people would be willing to give a authoritarian regime an opportunity to lead if they can practice justice and equality. That's what people are looking for. They're looking for opportunity, they're looking for justice, and they're looking for equity. And they don't care if they get it from a democracy or if they get it from an autocracy.
But you can't get justice from an autocracy.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Because let's go to ancient Kemet. In ancient Kemet, we had autocracies and the pharaohs, the dynasties, who ruled with justice and equity and equality. So we do have examples from history of justice being administered, you know, in autocracies on the African continent. So I do believe it's possible.
But I believe that they were more humane then they are now. They are really inhumane.
I agree with you. I agree with you. They were definitely more humane, I'm simply saying that it is a possibility because we have historical precedents for it having taken place. Now, the problem today, to your point, Baba David, is people are selfish, people are greedy, and people are mentally crazy. And to that point, because people are selfish, because people are greedy, and because people are mentally crazy, I'm not sure if you're going to get justice through a democracy or an autocracy.
That is true.
Look what democracy has done for the world over the past 75 years.
That's
not much of anything.
That's right.
Look what democracy has done for black people in this country over the past 50 or so years since Dr. King's assassination. Not much of anything. And by the way, I keynoted the Dr. King Memorial in Memphis back on April 3rd and April 4th as well. So democracy is not addressing the needs of the world's poor. And I'm going to tell you why, Baba David. We focus too much on the political system and not enough on the economic system. It doesn't matter if you have a democracy if the economic system is capitalism, because the first thing to be bought, traded, and sold in capitalism are the politicians. So you got to address the economic system. Worrying about the political system without dealing with the economic system is not going to bring change. It don't matter one man, one vote, when 1% of Americans own more than the bottom 90%. What kind of democracy can you really have in a country when the top 1% owns more than the bottom 90%? What kind of democracy is that? For me, I wouldn't care if I had a king or I wouldn't care if I had a Congress. What I want is freedom, justice, and equality. And if a king can give me freedom, justice, and equality, I could care less if I live under an autocracy. And now I think that's the opinion of most of the world. Democracy has had its run. And you can't have genuine democracy as long as there is capitalism. In the words of Father Rothschild, who built the international banking cartel, the modern international banking cartel, he said, quote, "Give me control of a people's money. Give me control of a nation's wealth, and I care not who makes the laws."
That is true.
Whoever pays rules. That's the way it is.
That's right.
The political system will always be enslaved to those who control the economics. That's the way it has been, and that's the way it will be as long as we continue to allow private ownership of capital. And that's why in traditional African culture, traditionally at least, there is no private ownership of wealth, because all of the wealth is collectively owned by the people. Well, as we can see, even Africa is getting into private ownership of wealth, because you got the Chinese coming over there buying and owning natural resources. Our ancestors are turning over in their graves.
If that's the case, then what's the point of us even trying if it's not going to make a bit of difference?
Because we were born to fix this planet. That's why we are born to fix this planet. We were sent here by God through our ancestors to use every ounce of our blood and breath to make the world we inherited a better place by the time we exit. We don't have a choice but to confront the reality in which we exist, because if God didn't need us, we would not be here.
Thank you so much. Doctor, how can people reach you and maybe even make some contributions to your efforts, your magnificent efforts?
Yes, indeed. If anybody needs to reach me, 215-989-9858. Sign up for Dr. Umar's mailing list so we can keep you updated on what's happening with FDMG, my travels around the world, and other initiatives. Hit your Cash App, $FDMG School. Hit your PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. The school of the future is almost ready.